You ever have that experience where you feel like your whole future hangs on that one pivotal moment? This was it for me. If I make the right choice, smooth sailing. If I make the wrong choice, my career is over. Here's how I responded to that moment. I looked him in the eyes. I made a huge show of concentration. I even put my hand on my forehead. This is like the universal gesture of mind reading. I said, I'm getting a woman's name. You were involved with a woman named Tiffany, am I right? And I knew I got it right because his eyes got real big and round and bloodshot. More bloodshot. I said, Tiffany didn't work out because she caught you cheating with Wanda. Now his jaw just falls. I know I've got it. I said, Wanda didn't work out because you spent the next several years in the state penitentiary. It was beautiful. He was like a deer caught in the headlights. He just looked at me and said, boy, you are good. And you have got to love a guy whose whole life story has been tattooed straight down his arm. Now, since as a speaker, I'm kind of in the business of creating morals to stories, the moral to this story is simple. The opportunities for creating impact, the opportunities for doing what I call achieving the impossible are literally all around us, all the time. The fundamental questions are, number one, why don't we always see them? And number two, when we do see them, what keeps us from taking action? How many of you have ever heard that if a person lies to you, they will look up and to your right? If you've heard that, give me a hands up. Perfect. How many of you have heard this? If they lie to you, if they're going to look up and to the left? How many of you have heard that? It's always a few who have heard the other way. Here's the honest truth. If a person's lying to you, about 50% of the time they'll look to the right. About 50% of the time they'll look to the left. And you'll have no clue. There is no correlation between the direction that a person's eyes move and whether they're lying. But I will tell you this, 100% of the time when they're lying to you, they're looking a different direction from when they told the truth. Now, why is this important? Here's why. You can't tell anything about a person until you've established a baseline for their behavior. The main reason that we're not able to read one another is because we never paid attention to them in the first place. Now, how many people here qualify yourself as sales professionals? If you are, raise your hands. Let me see how many we've got. Excellent. For those of you who did not raise your hands, even though you say you're not a sales professional, let me tell you this, you are. Because I don't care what it is, whatever it is you're doing in life, you're not only selling your product and your service, but in every single relationship you have, you are selling yourself. You are selling your credibility, your integrity, your interest in the people that you work with. So, the bottom line, success comes to people who pay attention. In polos, and I noticed that they all had their legs crossed exactly the same way. And their bodies were all leaning exactly the same way. And as I start to watch these guys, I notice one of them uncrosses his legs. About a second later, the guy to his left uncrossed his legs. And then the third guy uncrossed his legs. And I go, okay, I've got to watch this. I continue observing, and after a while, one guy reaches up and scratches his nose. Second guy reaches up and scratches his nose. Third guy gets really close, and he breaks it off. And just as I'm sitting here in my disappointment going, I wish he'd done that, I realize I have just reached up and scratched my own nose. See, it turns out that the number one way that we show each other unconsciously that we're part of the same team, we're part of the same tribe, is by copying each other's body language. If I'm shaking, freeze, don't move and don't let go. Don't move and don't let go, freeze. I'm going to tell you what you know about each other right now. If your hands are both side by side, perpendicular to the ground, you guys are equals. If your hand is on top, you're going to be the dominant one in your relationship. If your hand is on the bottom, you're going to be the submissive one in your relationship. Why is this important? Because as salespeople, you want to be not only likable, but much more important, credible. want to draw your attention to something interesting. Look around your tables and notice how many of you sitting near each other have almost identical body language. Some people will have their hands folded. These guys' elbows are on the table in almost the same way. Those two, their hands are folded in almost the same way. Turns out that one of the things we do to identify ourselves as part of a group is unconsciously copy each other's body language. Now, like I said, it's completely unconscious. We don't know we do it, but we do it. And I'm bringing this up for two very important reasons. Reason number one, because I want you to be self-conscious for the rest of your lives. And reason number two, because it gives us an important lesson. Just as we can hear not only with our ears, but also with our eyes, we hear also not only with our conscious mind, but also with our unconscious mind. Which means that every word you say has the power to influence people, but also every gesture you make has the power to influence people.